Hi guys, welcome to The Weight of Things. My name is Michelle, and if this is your first time visiting this channel, please go ahead and click the subscribe button as well as the notification bell so that you can get notifications of every time I create a new video. And if you are already my subscribers, then welcome back. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey. Now, what we are going to be talking about today, if you haven't seen the previous videos, please make sure that you check them out, because this is kind of like a part 3 to a series that I have been doing talking about relationships. And so what we're going to be talking about today is comparisons and expectations. And the reason why I wanted to do a video about them both is because both of these things are very detrimental to relationships, and they can definitely have negative impacts on relationships. So I wanted to make sure that I discuss them both so that we can eventually move on from this series. And if you want more in-depth information and you like this type of video and you want to see more in-depth details, then let me know in the comments, and I will definitely probably do another video to coincide with it. So what we're going to be talking about first is comparisons. And when it comes on to comparisons, again, this is like something that can be so detrimental to a relationship, because we have to remember that everybody's different. Every relationship is different. So we should never be comparing our spouse to somebody else. And one of the worst things that you can do is compare your spouse to your ex or to, somebody else, period, in general, but definitely an ex relationship that you have had. Now, when it comes on to that, we have to understand that there's good and bad in everything. And so sometimes what we tend to do, especially as women, is that we were in a relationship before, boyfriend and girlfriend, and now we're married, and we realize some bad habits in our husband that maybe our previous relationship did not have. All of a sudden we're having a lot of these comparisons and like kind of weighing the two, and that's not fair, nor is it kind of appropriate, because at the end of the day, you're in this marriage or this engagement that you're in right now, and there's a reason why you are no longer into that relationship. So talking about comparison in relationships should not be done, period, because there's a reason why you're no longer in that relationship, whether you were the one that ended it or whether they are the one that ended it. But the point is that you're gone out of that now, you're into your marriage or your engagement, and that should be where your focus is. Your focus and your energy should be on working on the relationship that you are in, the marriage that you are in, the engagement that you are in, not looking back towards things that happened in the past. So definitely doing that, comparing previous relationships, no, for sure. Something that I do find that more men tend to do when it comes to comparison is comparing their mother and or sisters or any female in their family. They often will kind of do those kind of comparisons to their wives. If a man does do comparisons, a lot of times it can tend to be like somebody within their family, like a strong woman or a woman that really knows how to cook, or a woman that has whatever attribute it may be in their family. Men are more the ones that will compare their family members to their wives and or fiancés. Whereas I find that women don't do it as much. Sometimes they may, but even if they did, it would more be like their father. But I find that women always know that to their dad, nobody will ever be good enough. So a lot of times I find that they more feel bad for their husbands, that they already can't live up to that standard of their father. So I find that women don't normally tend to compare their dad or their brother or whatever to their husband. And so again, when it comes on to doing that comparison, it is not fair, because your wife is a person that you decided to marry, and at the end of the day, she cannot be your sister or your mother, whoever you are comparing them to. And it's not fair for you to expect her to live up to a standard that she would never be able to live up to. Certain things that you would more like maybe you find that she doesn't really take care of the house as much as your mom normally would have, or your sister normally would have. That's something that you can help her along with. You can show her what you kind of like and what you don't like, but definitely saying things like, oh, well, my mom normally does it like this, my sister normally does it like this. That's the ultimate way to start an argument. That's an ultimate way to already get the woman's defenses up, ready to rumble. It's a huge irritant to have somebody compare you to somebody else, especially when that person knows that they are trying their best with what they know, and that can definitely cause them to feel very insecure into the relationship. And also, as I said, just get them downright upset with you. And so comparing to family members and stuff like that, definitely a no. And then another thing that I find for women, what we often compare relationships to is our friends' relationships or the relationship we saw in the movies. We more compare it to outward sources, like, as I said, like friends, movies, television shows, relationships that, maybe aren't even real. And why I say they might not even be real is because the relationships that you see on TV and movies, they definitely are not real. They are made up. They were made with a story writer and a storyline. And so they probably look perfect, more perfect than any relationship would ever possibly be. So expecting your spouse to live up to that standard, expecting your spouse to live up to a story that is made up by people's imagination is definitely unfair, definitely unhealthy for your relationship, and definitely will not work. But also, when you compare it to something that you see on social media, something that you see in your friends' relationship, you have to also remember that depending on how close you are with that person, but especially something on social media, people are not going to be showing you their arguments and their fights and everything bad that does happen. They're obviously going to be showing you the best of things. When they're showing you pictures, they're showing you all the happy moments, all the good things that happen. And while you may see these pictures keep coming up every single day, I'm sure that in between these pictures, there were some rough patches. And those are the things that you do not see. And so to compare or think like long for something, a relationship that is outside of your own knowledge of how it actually goes on an everyday basis is not fair to your spouse, and it's not fair to you, because those are, again, unrealistic, because they're not even real, in the sense that, as I said, that there are most likely things that happen in that relationship that you don't know about, that they rocky parts that they do have that they don't maybe talk to you about. So that's basically when it comes on to comparison. Comparison in any level, in regardless of who you're comparing to, is definitely not a good or healthy thing for your relationship. If you're comparing to your past in a positive way, to encourage your spouse to say that, look at how far you've come, look at how far we've come. We used to be like this and now we're like this. I can only see us getting better. That kind of comparison is a-okay. That kind of comparison is definitely welcome. It's definitely something that could be very healthy and encouraging to your spouse. So, but to compare anything in a negative way to basically show them their fault is not going to be fruitful. It's not going to produce any good feelings, and definitely it's unrealistic and unfair. So now the second thing that I said I wanted to talk about today was expectations. Expectations is definitely a thing that can have a damper on a relationship. When we do not have expectations, then we are not going to be disappointed, to be honest. Like, realistically, there are some expectations. You probably expect that your spouse is going to come home every night. You probably expect that your spouse is going to be faithful to you, and you probably expect that your spouse is going to love you. Like, those are, I think, realistic expectations. But anything beyond that, when we are expecting them to respond to us in a certain way, or we're expecting them to do something that we want them to do, it can be very detrimental to our relationship and also unfair to that spouse. Because as I mentioned in a previous video where I talked about 10 things that are holding you back from having a joyful and content life, a lot of expectations are things that are nonverbal. They are unspoken things that we have in our heart that we are expecting. And so what happens is we have it in our mind, in our heart, and we don't verbalize it to that person. We expect them to know that we're expecting this of them. And then when they don't live up to it, we're now upset. So it can get that person feeling like just giving up, because they just feel like, well, I'm not a mind reader. How am I supposed to know what you want? And at the same time, you're constantly frustrated because you have your expectations up here and they're only down here. But if we were to throw out our expectations and just be thankful and just live in the moment and be thankful for the spouse that we have, then we wouldn't have all those bad feelings. The reason why I wanted to put expectations and comparison together is because some of the times our expectations are because we are secretly comparing our spouse to somebody else or a different relationship. If a husband finds that his mother normally would cook roast beef and vegetables on every single Sunday, he may have that expectation that his wife should live up to that. And he may suggest it one Sunday and say that that's what his mom used to do, but then he in his heart has this expectation that that's what she should do. This is why I wanted to put these two together, because I think sometimes they definitely work hand in hand. And again, if a wife had her previous boyfriend used to open the door for her all the time, or she sees her best friend's husband open the door for her all the time, she might expect that, oh, well, he should know that that's how a lady should be treated. And so now she has this expectation that is outside of her actual reality. And this is the problem with expectations, is that expectations a lot of times come outside of reality. Our spouse is not like that. Our spouse doesn't maybe pick up the towel when they finish having a shower. Maybe they throw it on the floor. But we have that expectation, and that expectation is out of the reality, because the reality is they don't do that. So the reason why we're expecting it is because we have this outer reality expectation that comes from somewhere else than our actual current relationship. And so we're comparing what we think should be happening based on whatever, based on just our own, what we just think in our mind should be happening, based on what we see in movies, based on what other relationships we've seen. And it creates an expectation and a comparison between what we think it should be versus what is actually happening. So sometimes comparisons can not only be between your spouse and somebody else or a different relationship, but even comparison between what you have created in your mind of what the perfect relationship should look like, or what your perfect version of your spouse in your mind should look like. So sometimes that is even what you have to drop, is the comparison of reality versus what you created in your mind. Your spouse is one thing, and you can't be trying to expect them to live up to this made up version of them that you have made up in your own mind. We all have things that maybe in our spouse that we wish that they would change, or wish that they wouldn't do, or wish that they would do more of. And that is definitely a normal thing for us to have, but it can become very detrimental to our relationship when we hold those things so dear that we make comparisons, have expectations that turn into bitterness when we're not getting those things. So it's definitely important for us to let go of all comparisons, whether it be comparisons of things that are not reality versus things that are reality, things that we see in other relationships, things from our previous relationships, or whatever the comparison that we are making up in our mind. We need to let go of that. And also we need to let go of expectations, which sometimes works hand in hand. The less that we expect from our spouse is the more that we can enjoy anything that we do get. If they don't pick up the towel, we can always look at it like, oh, now they left the towel again. Like they should at least know to, pick up the towel. And that's our expectation. They should know to pick up the towel. So we can look at it like that and get ourselves all upset. Or we can look at it like, at the end of the day, at least I have a husband, or at least I have a wife. This may be annoying. I'm going to pray about it. Hopefully this will change. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to have zero expectation. I'm just going to expect that every day the towel is going to be there, because this is reality. This is what I've known. We've been together for however long. Every day the towel is there. I'm not going to have this expectation so that every day when I go into the washroom and see the towel, I'm going to be like mad all over again. It's like we know what our reality is, but we still have these expectations in our mind. And it's like we get mad over and over again when that expectation is not met. And again, as I said, expectations can be unfair, because a lot of times the things that you are expecting, you never even address, you never even express and let your spouse know that you're expecting it. So they're kind of bewildered and wondering what's the problem, because you're having an attitude every time a situation happens when you never even took the time to discuss the situation to begin with. So that is what I wanted to discuss today, ladies and gentlemen. We just need to drop all of our expectations, let go of all of our comparisons, and just appreciate our spouse how they are, and pray that we will more see the flaws inside of ourselves than the flaws that are inside of them. And that when we continue to work on ourselves, we can just pray that they will also see what's in the things inside of themselves that need working out, and that they will be able to do so as well. Again, if you are new to this channel, please make sure that you subscribe and click the bell below. And if you are here again and you've already subscribed, then welcome back, and thank you for being a part of this. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day.